What is going on, movie fans? James Patrick here with another ranked video, and in this video we are going to be looking at the Species franchise. There are 4 films in this franchise. 2 were theatrically released, and then 2 were direct-to-video. Both, I believe, were produced by the Sci-Fi Channel. Last week I did the Evil Dead franchise, and in that franchise, I said at the beginning, there were no bad films. You can't lose when it comes to picking an Evil Dead movie. Unfortunately, you can when it comes to Species. There really are no good movies here, and I apologize if you're a fan of this franchise, but I really, really, really struggled to get into this. And ultimately, the one that ends up being the best isn't even that good, which is unfortunate because conceptually, I really like this concept, and I think there's a lot of potential behind it, and I'll get into some ideas I have for what could be done or what I think should be done with this IP should it ever get picked up again. As with all the ranked videos, I look at a handful of different things, from the story to the characters to the acting and the directing to the special effects to how fun was the movie even to watch to begin with. And off 10 different metrics that I'm looking at, I plot a score from 0 to 100, and that's how I'm able to rank these. So let's get into it. We always start with the worst, and then we climb up to the best, but really, it's the best of the worst. I should mention, if you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button, turn on the bell notification, share this video with a friend. It absolutely helps the channel. So thank you so much to everyone who has been doing that. All right, so starting off at the bottom is we have Species 2, which I only hit at a 22% out of 0 to 100. This could possibly be the worst or the most frustrating or the most unentertaining direct sequel, so part 2, I've seen in any franchise. Absolutely abysmal sequel. You have the same exact budget that they had in the first one, which shows what a studio thinks about a film when they greenlight a sequel, but they give it the exact same budget as its predecessor. Both had a budget of $35 million. And in fact, because this movie was made later, that $35 million is not going to go as far as it went with the first one. You have brutally bad camera work in this. Absolutely awful lighting. I mean, the directing and the cinematography is so bad that you will actually see the camera lights and the scrims and the jibs set up in the reflection of the actor's glasses. That is how bad this movie was pieced together. It is the same stupid story that was pushed in the first one, but you have the same characters just contradicting their own roles. Like, they're making the same exact mistakes, identical mistakes that they made in the first film, with this very nonsensical script, very uninteresting characters, which the characters sucked in part 1 and they suck even more in part 2 because now they're just contradicting themselves. Somehow the effects get worse compared to the first one, and when everyone's unlikable, it's not even that interesting. They try to be funny while also being serious at the same time, and it just bombs abysmally. So Species 2, bottom of it, absolutely awful film. All right, moving up to number 3, which I only rated at a 25%, is Species 3, which opens up with a voiceover narration. And it's the only voiceover narration you have in the entire franchise. Comes out of nowhere. It's only in the first 4 to 5 minutes of this film, and then it never returns, which makes it so tonally out of place. It picks up right where part 2 drops off. So they paid enough money to get Natasha Henstridge to appear for one scene. I don't even think she has any lines. I think they just show her face and then she's done. But this, what gets better about this, once again, this is a bad movie. This is not a good movie. But what gets better about this is where they start to lean into the idea of this being intentionally schlocky, intentionally corny, intentionally gimmicky. And that's really what I think this series needs in order to be successful. On the premise, if it's not really well done, made scary and with great effects and great acting, it's going to be hard to take the concept of a really ornery alien serious. Okay? So you should lean into that. And what I think the best medium for that would be is a TV show. Imagine a 6 to 8 part show, seasonal show, where the protagonist is actually the alien character working with human partners to figure something out. Maybe it's to solve certain cases, or maybe it's to take down rogue aliens, or maybe it's to battle other forces or undo government corruption. I mean, it lends itself there because it lends itself to that short beat, very schlocky, 60-minute segment energy. Outside of that, there's almost nothing really memorable about this movie other than it's just not enjoyable to watch. Okay, moving on to number 2, which still not a good movie per se. I think I rated this 1% higher. It was 26, where Species 3 I gave it a 25. But it is better. It's more than 1 point better. I don't, I don't know how else to say it. It is a little better. It still has the schlock. It has the best story out of any of them. It has decent pacing. The graphics get a little bit better from its predecessor. There's a little bit more nuance to the characters, if that's possible in a series like this. But it was a little better than part 3, and certainly better than part 2. It was the most out of all the films, I would say it was the cleanest of all the films, if you catch my drift. All right, moving on. At number 1, which is still not a good movie, is the original Species at 42%. Let's try to start with positives. The creature design is phenomenal. I mean, H.R. Geiger, who designed the original Alien, also designed the creature in Species. The makeup work looks phenomenal, but the prosthetic work was so rigid, it was very hard for the actor or actors to move around in it, and thus they would rely a little too much in CGI, and video games had better CGI. The CGI was terrible in this. Like I said, it gets worse in part 2, but it was just bad in this. The characters kind of suck in this. No, they don't kind of suck. The characters suck in this. And they took what was a decent premise and they just ruined it with a bad script and bad characters. Characters who don't make any sense, who contradict their own character design. The movie keeps leaning into these really, really, really awful dream cuts. The editing's very choppy. It's hard to track. The final act, particularly when they're in the cave scenario, it's very dark. It has real bad music, real bad CGI. So, interesting concept, just really, really, really poorly executed. And the only reason it kept getting greenlit is just the concept of a sexy alien. I mean, that's why it's getting greenlit. Natasha Henstridge was great in it. Total embarrassing story. I had to see this, not realizing what it was in the theaters with my dad. Not a movie you want to see with your parents. But like I said, I think there is some potential for this IP should it be developed or reworked into a TV show where the alien is working in some conjunctions, has some symbiotic relationship with human counterparts, which they explored in part 3, and they kind of explored in part 4, the Species: The Awakening. And I liked that. I think that was interesting, and I think you could start to mine a lot from that, and then give it a little more budget, but keep the schlock, keep the gimmicky, satirical vibes, be self-aware, and have fun with it, and try to move away from trying to be uber serious, which part 1 and 2 did and failed really bad. Like, lean into part 3 and 4 and emulate what they were able to create with shows like Ash versus the Evil Dead. That tonally is where this series should be going. But I'm curious your thoughts. Let me know in the comment section below. As always, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next screening. Take care, everyone.